What is the purpose of knowledge? To know. Of course, the more you know, the more awareness that you have, the better life you could live. If you didn't know how to add and subtract, that would be taking away from a greater fulfillment in life. The more you understand teachings of Torah, the more it enhances your life. You have a better life. Now, of course, that's not just Torah, but all the more so when it comes to Torah, but other wisdoms. If you understand science, if you understand the nature of gravity, it gives you a greater appreciation, that like a 1-year-old doesn't understand gravity and then just throws things around, right? And doesn't know that, oh, just broke that plate. Doesn't understand, what goes up must come down, right? So the more we know, the greater awareness we have of all things in life, the better life we will have. So it seems. Is that the case? Is that always the case? Maybe not. But definitely we all want to know more because by knowing more, we become more. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zirchen Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We are in chapter 5 of Tanya. Chapter 1, in one word, neshamas, souls. We got 2 souls. That's important. The beginning of everything. Be aware you have 2 souls. And then we go into the godly soul. The godly soul is a part of God. Chelek, in one word, chapter 2, a part of God. Not a creation of God, but a piece of God. Literally. Chapter 3, we went into the makeup of the soul. 10, in one word, is chapter 3. 10 components. 3 intellectual, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and then the 7 parts of emotion. And then we went into chapter 4, which we finished yesterday. Chapter 4 in one word, Levushim, garments. It's the clothes that make the man. The garments, meaning garments can be put on and taken off at will. They are an expression of an individual. And what is the expression of the soul? What is the garments of the soul? Your willful thoughts, your speech, and your actions. And what we explained was that you have a greater union and oneness with God through the act of a mitzvah, whether it's putting on your tefillin, giving charity in that act, you have a royal embrace. God embraces you and you're bound up with God. Chapter 5 now goes into this oneness that you have with God that is greater this oneness with God that you have in this world, because you have it with the core essence of God, that you're bound up and one with Him when you study Torah, as we're doing now, or when you do an act of a mitzvah, again, whether it's being charitable, putting on your tefillin, saying the words of prayer, and the like, bound up with the oneness of God, that it's greater, that oneness, that unity, than what you will achieve when your soul leaves this world and goes to the Garden of Eden in the world to come. There you only get a ray of light of God. Here you get the core essence of God. Now we continue with this, a further explanation in the word tfisa, which means to grasp, that Elijah the prophet says that no thought can grasp God. You can't grasp God. God's infinite. Except, as we learned in chapter 4, how can you grasp God? Anybody?
Studying Torah.
By studying Torah. Because what did God do? He took the infinite wisdom and will of God and he compressed it and compacted the infinite. I don't know how you did it because I'm not infinite, so I don't know how to do that, but God can do it. He compressed it and put it into the words of Torah, into the teachings of Torah. He put it into the act of doing a mitzvah, and therefore you're bound up in one with him through it. So let's understand this further, this idea that through Torah study, we actually access God, unity with God. What kind of unity? It's when I understand the subject in my mind, then I am grasping the subject, which what is that subject? God's wisdom, his will, which is infinite, even though it's now in finite words, but it carries the infinite of God himself, literally of God himself. It carries the infinite of God. And now I have that in my mind. I'm grasping it. I'm getting it. I'm encompassing that teaching. And not only that, the teaching is encompassing me at the same time. So, for example, the Alter Rebbe gives an example. When you study the Mishnah or the Gemara, by way of example, you're learning a law, right? A law of the Torah, right? A law of Torah. That halacha, that law is embodying, is in it, is the divine wisdom and the divine will of God, right? Therefore, so for example, if two litigants come to a court, Reuven makes a claim against his friend Shimon. He makes a claim against him. And they make an argument back and forth, right? The litigants, their arguments, their claims. And now there is an adjudication of the law, Torah law, right? We're talking Torah law, not civil law, not secular law, because secular law doesn't embody the divine wisdom and will of God. It's only the Jewish law that does. So when it arose that the God's will and wisdom should, that a person who claims this way or that way, the verdict should be such and such. When you learn this and you comprehend it and you understand it to its full depth and breadth, right? Even if there would be an identical law in the secular court system, the secular court system is based on human reasoning, even it would be identical. But here it's not based on human reasoning, it's based on God's will and wisdom. So when you comprehend that, right? Comprehend that teachings of the Torah, the verdict is such and such, right? Based on the claims and the counterclaims and whatever, right? That this is God's will and wisdom that's clothed in this law, and your intellect gets it. Wow. You are bound up in one with the divine will and wisdom, which is bound up in one with God. It's with God, one with God. This is the most wonderful unity in the physical realm, that there's no unity parallel to it. There's nothing parallel to this. You become united in every angle and every part of your mind and in your intelligence with God. It becomes, as we will see more about this as we will conclude this chapter tomorrow, it's a very profound and amazing unity. There's no divine unity that has this idea that you are totally bound up with the core essence of God, with his divine will and wisdom, to such a degree as we will see what that consequence has. And that'll be in tomorrow's class. And this is specifically because of the Torah teachings. Imagine, think about it for a moment. Imagine you went to a secular court and they give the same verdict. So you say, oh, what's the difference? The difference is huge. The difference is that that verdict was based on that judge and his personal logic, based on precedent in the court system. Fine. So he based it on something. Obviously, he didn't just base it on his own intelligence, but it is based on someone else's intelligence. Based on someone else's intelligence, it may go back, jurisprudence, a long way back. But in the end, it's all based on human engagement. Here, this is different. And what's comes out of this is actually a very important idea. Jurisprudence in a secular court of law will be based on, on the intelligence of the individual and their human reasoning. Yes, again, based on precedent. But Jewish law is based on, I'm just trying to know what is the will and wisdom of God. So now when I study, I'm not coming to try and understand what makes sense to me, how I get it. Even though you need to get it, of course, you need to comprehend it. But what you're trying to do is reveal God's will and wisdom as stated in the Torah. And that's why a true sage of the Jewish people will only be someone who gives themselves over totally, nullifies themselves to know what the truth that Torah speaks, rather than what's my truth that I live with and that I appreciate and understand and guide my life with, or even guide, jurisprudence based on secular law, based in secular law. Jewish law is just to reveal what is the will and wisdom of God as it's understood in the teachings of the Torah. And therefore, my personal perspective is not what I'm seeking to, to come away with. And that's why you have what you call in secular world identity politics. Because in the end, what happens is a judge is, and as we see what's going on in America, it's so clear, identity politics and identity, I guess, I don't know what the word is, judges that they base their judgment on politics. On politics. I'm woke, so you are right wing, right wing, whatever. To me, if I'm woke and therefore I see you as right wing, what's misogynist. I see you as a anti, anti-black, anti-this, anti-that, right? That's what a woke judge will see, someone who's right-wing. And therefore, we're going to prosecute him because we can't allow this to happen because this is what he believes. And therefore, that's what he does. And it'll be the opposite also. If someone's a right-wing judge, right? He sees someone woke. So based on what he believes, this is how he's going to, right? That's kind of the world where we're living, or America world for sure. But it's all over the world. It's everywhere. Yeah, exactly.
Because the Supreme Court, if they make a decision, they have to think, am I going to be invited to the parties? Am I going to be part of society if I make that decision? Or
right. Yeah. So David asks, is it only the righteous that can be fully bound up with and united with no, it's everybody. When you devote yourself to learning Torah and you know it really well, and you give yourself over with that kind of self-effacement, humility, that it's not about my agenda at all, no agenda driven at all, but it's to seek to know the will and wisdom of what God's teachings are. So that's possible as well. But the righteous obviously are much more attuned to that and much more, and that's why they're the sages of Israel and not me.
Because I was going to ask you how possible is that for the PhDs?
No, it is, of course. I mean, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Being Indian training. All right. More on this tomorrow. We're going to go deeper in yet. So do come and join us on this beautiful teachings. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you Chabad Zurich, Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya.